Hi everyone, Erin Elliott here. I am at Whitefish Lake in Pearson, Michigan. Today we're going to talk about the full moon, which is happening tomorrow, Monday, June 17th, 2019. Talk a little bit about that, and then also the Sabian symbols that correspond with the day tomorrow, the sun and the moon. So let's get to it. If you want to check out the link below in the video, David Nerguna talks about the full moon and its implications, and he includes a mantra. It's really great information, so be sure to check that out. In thinking about the full moon, one of the things that he said in his video is that it's quickly becoming very dark around us, very dark, very quickly, right? And with that, we can be the light. But in order to process that, we really need to turn inside, right? We need to do some deep exploration of ourselves and our acceptance of ourselves, our self-love, and how we present ourselves to the world. The idea of everything that we need to be whole is already inside of us, right? Especially the masculine and the feminine. In our society, how we've been raised, how we've been conditioned, and we're very much a gender, and that's how we're raised. And that these are what we have to fit into to be accepted, right? And really, we should be looking at the self-acceptance of ourselves and respecting and honoring and exploring the masculine and feminine that resides inside of us. So the idea of the feminine being the dreamer, right? The creator, allowing herself, giving herself permission to explore and be confident and love, and to let these dreams really develop, and checking in and saying, oh yes, this is me, this is good. And then presenting that, again, I'm saying the word presenting that, having the confidence to present that to the masculine side, which is really the action of all of the creation and the dreams. So very beautiful imagery if you think about this, like a ceremony, the feminine presenting herself and the ideas and the dreams, and then the masculine humbly accepting that and taking that and putting it into action. So you can see, really the cyclical returning and the symbiosis and the enmeshment. It's not the balance and trying to make it like this, but it's coming together in harmony, really, and creating that harmony. And then the masculine, that action, that doing, has a purpose. So that's very beautiful. And just touching on too about the androgyny, the androgynous, and that we all do embody that. There's a lot of ancient statues, literature, or references to our creator gods being both, embodying both. A really, really good example, I think, of somebody that we've been studying and doing some work on is Frida Kahlo, right? Everybody, she's a very, very powerful figure, and we're working on a video that really goes into detail and will examine her life and the astrology behind it. So be sure to check that out in the future. But quickly, just talking about her and the creation and her femininity, right? With her art and being married to a very famous male artist, right? But her having the confidence in allowing herself this creation and this exploration of her heritage, and then also herself, and then the kind of fantastical side of things, always coming together. But then her masculine is the action, is the doing, and not only just in her art, but her life and how she lived, and also her involvement with the Communist Party. So it's very holistic that you get that with her. So with Frida, one of the paintings that she did, first I'll reference this biography by Hayden Herrera. This is of Luther Burbank, painted in 1931. And he was a horticulturist in California. So he's known for creating hybrids, plants, vegetables, trees. But here, when we were looking into the Sabian symbols, this really jumped out because here we have him integrating, right? He's a hybrid himself. Man going into the tree, his feet and his legs turn into the roots, go down, and here's most certainly his body here, which this is an early example of Frida's work with her exploration of life and death and that cycle, right? Which we're talking about with the masculine and feminine even inside of ourselves. So here you can see him becoming one with nature. And she did also reference that it was very interesting because he was not a creator of machines or technology. So the painting that Frida did of Luther Burbank was one of the first images that really resonated with the first Sabian symbol we're going to talk about for the full moon tomorrow. So it is Gemini 25 degrees and frost-covered trees against winter skies. The keynote is the revelation of archetypal form and essential rhythm of existence. And this is from Dane Rudyard's book, Astrological Mandala. At this third level of exteriorization, a contact with archetypes and pure forms of individual selfhood is to be sought. Also with the characteristic images, Spengler's UR symbols, which he references here, we'll put a link down in the description, of culture. Externals are left behind. This is a step beyond pruning. It is rather a process of removal of all superficialities of existence. Cyclically, nature helps us to reach this state of bare reality. It is not that we experience the Buddhist void, but rather that we reach the essence of our individual being, the form of pure selfhood, which is the structuring power underneath all external features, all that belongs to the leaf realm. So this really goes hand in hand, which I was just talking earlier about us turning inwards, right? So you have this image of it's winter, it's bare. The trees are bare, but they're covered with frost. And when I think about winter just in general, you have an image of cleansing, right? Everything is dying, but it's very beautiful and covered in white. And it really forces you to retreat inside. One of the other images that I think really resonated with me was Gabriele Munter, who's German. She was a partner of Kandinsky's, definitely the expressionist movement. But the image she has is Breakfast of the Birds, which was painted in 1934. And in this image, it's a scene of a woman, maybe her, sitting at a table having breakfast, and then looking out to a winter scene with birds on snow frost-covered branches. Now, the drapes are so heavy around, so it really creates a separation between inside and outside. So you could take that as isolation that she's feeling, or I take it as something being cozy and allowing myself the permission to go inside of myself. That outside it's winter and everything by nature's force, which we have to bend to, is dying. And then that leads into another image that came to mind by N.C. Wyeth, which is Christmas Morning, 1913. And it's an image of, I believe it's his grandfather and him as a younger boy outside of a family home. And there's just so much snow, piles and piles and piles of snow, and they're shoveling a tunnel, right, to come out. And to me, that shows the weight and the heaviness that nature can bring. And to take this opportunity, not to fight against it, but accept it. Go inside, do the work, be enclosed, because if you keep fighting against it and trying to go out into the world, you're missing a grand opportunity to continue that exploration, which is so important. 26 Sagittarius. Let me find it here. This is a flag bearer in battle. The keynote is the nobly accepted subservience of the individual to collective values and goals. A flag symbolizes an organized collectivity of human beings, a nation, or even a social class in the old-fashioned type of battle. Whoever carries the flag has to feel himself the representative of the integrity and unity of his group. His personal life and his welfare should therefore be totally submerged in and identified with the welfare of the greater whole, of which he carries the standard. In certain circumstances, every person can act as a conscious and responsible agent for mankind. In substance, the symbol asks, are you ready to assume this role? So the key word with this Sabian symbol is nobility. And when positive, the degree is spiritual exaltation through some dramatic, overt service to all. And then when it's negative, it's a resort to an empty show or a demand for false credit. So when I think about that, the demand for false credit, I really think about the American flag and the story that was woven about Betsy Ross creating it so that we can identify with that, and we know she didn't even do that. So that's a representation of something that's false, seeking that credit. And on the positive side, the integration and the inclusion, right, the service to all of humanity, we can think about the gay flag, right, and integrating that. We can also think about changing national flags, from a colonialist aspect, which so many were established with just the indigenous people being completely wiped out, in a return to that and in a return to honoring that, breaking down the countries. Now that's happening in Australia, which is very exciting, right? That there's a movement to have the Australian flag be indigenous. And a quote by the person who is proposing all of those changes is, "We are seeking a flag of unity and healing under which all Australians are represented equally." I mean, that really sums up the Sabian symbol, right? Inclusion, integration, all of humanity. We're on all of this together. How do you want to represent your flag individually, right? The patriotic flag versus the gay pride flag versus Tibetan prayer flags. What is the intention behind that? And whether we want to admit it or not, we identify, we all are flag bearers. We all are going around, and whether we know it or not, are identifying and representing that. So how about, I'm going to propose to you a project, making your own flag, right? What would it look like? What would it represent? What would it be made out of? We typically think that a flag has to be made out of a certain material, and that's the standard, because that's all we know, that flags are certain colors, right? Certain symbols reappear. There's a very good site that we'll reference here. It's great infographics, but it gives a really good snapshot of all the different elements that are used in flags that represent countries. So maybe take some time, create some space for yourself. Go in, do the work, see what's important to you, and express that. If you want to check out Etsy, they've got lots of freak flags for sale, which is pretty incredible. Would love to see any of your flag projects that you might make. Be great. Send them to us. We'll share them on social media. So be well. All the blessings. Love and light.